Hey guys, I know it's been a while since I made a video. I've been busy with school and other activities. I'm moving away from the wind-ups as I was making the videos a while back because we're coming to the end of the format and I just feel like they're going to get hit pretty badly. I mean, you know, they're going to at least go down to Tier 2 or the bottom of Tier 1. Probably going to go even worse because Konami has a reputation of really killing a deck if it has really persisted through the formats. So I'm moving away from that. I actually did back in December take my wind-up deck to a regional in Dallas in Top Ford, which is pretty cool. It was a real fun event or whatever. And since then I've been trying to collect and get the cards for the spellbooks because I feel like the spellbooks, due to their consistency, is a really good deck this next format. They're most likely not going to get hit by the ban list. We'll know that real soon, probably in the next few days, maybe a week from now. And assuming they don't get hit, which they really shouldn't considering they haven't done anything really, they're extremely consistent and they're going to be getting more support. The Divine Judgment card coming out soon, I think in the next set, it's really ridiculous what it can do. And the build's going to have to change quite a bit for that card. But until then, you know, we have the Reaper build and we have the Priestess build. And you can try to hybrid them, but that makes it even worse than the pure builds. So what I want to do with this video is just, you know, get out my recommendations as far as this is where you should really run in every Spellbook deck at the moment, given the support we have. And then, you know, there's a lot of wiggle room for other card choices as well. But in my opinion, just from my experience with the deck, I feel like going with the light build, the Priestess-oriented build, as opposed to the Reaper build is better. The Reaper build has more explosive plays, it can OTK sometimes, but it has real consistency issues compared to this build. And this build is extremely consistent. And that's one thing that I really like about the deck. I like decks that are consistent. Consistent decks make good tournament decks as long as they're in Tier 1. That's one of the reasons why wind-ups are so good. They can consistently make their power plays as needed. Anyway, you need to run 3 of her. She is getting kind of pricey, so you know, try to get them soon if you're gonna get her. She's just gonna keep going up once more support hits and the meta evolves even more. But you need to run 3. I mean, it's the Hyperion of the deck, only better. I mean, we abuse her much more than fairies abuse Hyperion due to the searchability and the revivability of the Priestess. Aside from Priestess, though, in every build, you should also be running 3 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. This guy is your Stratos, and you get to run 3 of it. On top of that, though, we can even abuse it, just like Stratos. With Stratos, you can use, like, you know, Monsterborn or Call the Haunted and some hero variants to bring it back and special summon it. And in this case, we had to flip it back down, which is not too big of an issue with Spellbook of Fate, or if you main or side deck Tsukiyomi or some other method. You know, abusing the Magician's really not that difficult. And between 3 Magicians and 3 Secrets, you're running 6 Rotos. So you can really just kind of pick your hand, given any kind of decent hand. And being able to pick the Spellbook out of your deck that you need, given the versatility of all the Spellbook cards, makes it really nice so that you can probably get around the problem threats, the problem cards that are threatening you on the field at the moment. But you definitely have to run 3 of these in every build. It's just too good not to run, and it really kills your consistency if you're not running it. Out of the other Prophecy monsters, I recommend running Temperance. I tried running 3 for a while, but it was getting a little cloggy. I was opening with 2 of them in my hand in my opening, and that's just bad. But I'm really liking running 2 right now, and I like him a lot more than I like Justice. Justice is going to get a lot better once we get that Divine Judgment because of the combos that it allows you to make. But until that comes out, I just feel Temperance is overall a better card for the deck. It's faster, you don't lose your field presence, you don't lose your ability to use Tower on the opening turn. And you also can get around one of the big problems with the deck, which is Thunder King. Justice can't get around Thunder King. She adds to hand from the deck, and Temperance, at least, you know, it's not an inherent summon for Priestess, bringing her out, and that can swing over the Thunder King that could potentially be blocking you, or it can blow out the Thunder King depending on the scenario. But I would definitely say that Temperance is the better choice of the Prophecy monsters. The other thing you want to run you don't run MSCs in this deck. Instead, you run a spellcaster that is a that destroys spells or traps. Right now, I'm testing Breaker. I've been liking Breakers more than Lila. Lila's nice because you can use Charge of the Light Brigade. You can search her. The mill is sometimes nice, being able to mill a priestess, and you don't have to draw that priestess. You can Spellbook a Life it or something like that. But Breaker can, again, this comes back to Thunder King, can ram a Thunder King without any other cards. If you have a Lila or, you know, Temperance or anything like that, you kind of have to have a Spellbook of Power or something else in order to get around the Thunder King, and that's assuming they don't have any, you know, protection or whatever. And so Breaker at least gives you a little bit of a better edge at getting around that Thunder King, because Thunder King really devastates the deck. If they get it early and you don't have 3 Spellbooks and a Priestess, it's pretty much game over at that point. But that's the reason I like him. Also, Lila's mills can be kind of off. You might mill things you don't really want to mill. If you're running traps, you might mill some traps, or if you might mill monsters you don't want to mill, like Tragodias or hand traps or other things that, you know, don't really need to be in the graveyard. But Lila, again, is searchable, which is also nice. You can also run 2 to 3. I'm testing 2 right now. I've been really liking the 2, and you definitely want to run Breakers or Lilas, and not MSCs. You side deck your MSCs, because these are just better because they combo with Wisdom. Whenever you summon Breaker, if they have 2 set traps that respond to summons, say Solemn Warning and Bottomless, or Solemn Warning and Torrential, or something like that, generally you don't want to have to warning the Breaker. You'd rather Bottomless or Torrential it, because you want to save warning for a real problem threat when Bottomless might not be able to work, like against a Tragodia or against a bigger threat than Breaker. And if they don't use the warning, then you can chain Spellbook of Wisdom on Breaker, and now the Bottomless or Torrential or, you know, non-counter trap that they tried to play no longer has effect on Breaker, and then you can break their other back row. And so Wisdom plus Breaker or Wisdom plus Lila, whichever you're running, really helps you burn through their back row. The same goes for Priestess. If they try to Bottomless Priestess, you can Wisdom your Priestess and then use Priestess to blow up their other back row, and you really grind through their traps really effectively using those kinds of engines to destroy their back row. And then you side deck the MSTs for additional spell trap removal for really just trap heavy decks or things of that nature. I would also recommend always running Tragodia. Tragodia is an amazing card in this deck. Generally speaking, you have a really big hand a lot of the time. You are really running more of a control deck. Tower lets you draw twice per turn, so even if your hand's kind of low, let's say you dropped him and you only have 3 in your hand, you're going to have 5 your next turn. He went from 18 to 3,000. It's a big change. He also has the very good benefit of being able to copy the levels, and although this deck does not use the extra deck extremely frequently, it is nice to have the level modulation, as Tragodia does the level modulation and the Spellbook of Life does modulation, allowing you to make easy access to synchros and exceeds. One of the most important things is that Tragodia can help you make 7, 2, and I even run a rank 10. I've actually won a couple games. It doesn't come up very often, but the Gustav Max Cannon can actually win you games, because of Tragodia plus Tragodia, or Tragodia plus a Spellbook of Life, and you can level modulate a creature to go to 10. Like if you get Priestess out by banishing a Temperance, you can swing for a whole lot of damage and then overlay for 2,000 points of damage. It's like a really big cowboy, and that can actually win you games. And then obviously Big Eye wins games, and Shining Elf is just an amazing rank 2. And if you have a Magician on the field, you can, or if you drop Trag, you can like normal summon Magician the following turn, and then make the Shining Elf. And Shining Elf is just an amazing exceed for this deck. That's all that I'm going to say you have to run as far as monsters are concerned. You know, there's a wiggle room. You know, you might want to run Effect Bellers or Maxis in the main board. You could also run like Tsukiyomi in the main board. If you don't run Tsukiyomi in the main, siding her is actually a really good option. She helps a lot against Thunder Kings. Again, I mean, a lot of decks main deck Thunder King, and decks also can side deck Thunder King. And if you're playing against one of those decks, it's really nice to have more outs, because Thunder King really does shut the deck down pretty badly. But that's all the monsters that, you know, is kind of in the Spellbook template. Going to the spells, you need 3 Spellbook of Secrets. That you just have to have those. Again, this is a Rhoda. It can search for Magician. There's combos you can have. I'm going to make a video over the very basic combos, just like I did with the wand ups, concerning the spellbooks. But you have to run 3 of these. You also want to run at least 2 Spellbook of the Master. I kind of want to run 3. I'm testing 2 and 3 back and forth. 3 has its benefits, but 2 does occasionally clog a little bit. And right now I'm just testing 2. But 3 is definitely doable. But you do need to run at least 2 of these because it copies Secrets, it copies Eternity, and it copies Power. And having that much flexibility in being able to remake the Spellbook effects really does give you more consistency, and it gives you bigger plays and more powerful plays. You also want to run 2 Spellbook of Fate. There is a small little loop involving 2 Spellbook of Fate and 2 Spellbook of Eternity. They loop together, and you can have a Fate pretty much on the field 3 to 4 turns straight without ever missing a beat. It's really useful because Fate is just an amazing card, and I'm going to make a video going over that combo as well. But you do want to run 2 and 2 of these. It is very necessary in order to make that mini loop. It's like an additional tower engine that lets you recycle cards and get the ones you need to your hand as soon as possible. Right now I'm playing 2 Spellbook of Power and 2 Spellbook of Wisdom. I've tested 2-3, 3-2, 3-3, and 2-2. It's really preference. You need to run at least 2 of both. That's minimum. Running 3 Spellbook of Power helps you again with the Thunder King problem. You have a better chance of drawing power plus, a spellcaster like Breaker or Temperance, and that can help you get over Thunder Kings. And at the same time, Wisdom is very useful because now you have better odds of having a Breaker and a Wisdom in your hand. And that Wisdom play with the Breaker works a lot better when you don't have to search the Wisdom, because then they had to risk either you having the Wisdom and using their Bottomless or whatever, or they had to waste the warning, in which you can use the Wisdom on the Priestess or the next Breaker when they do use the Bottomless, because now they use the warning. But you definitely need to run 2 minimum, and again, this is just a template. This is the bare minimum of things that you really do need to run. Spellbook of Life and Spellbook of Tower, I'm recommending to run 1 of each. You could run 2 Spellbook of Life in like a version that runs Lila or some sort of mill, because you don't want to mill the life and then not have an easy way to recycle it back quickly. You can obviously recycle it from the graveyard, but it might take time to. So if you're running any kind of variation that's going to make it uncertain if you can search it when you need it out of your deck, like such as mill, you could run 2 Spellbook of Life. I would never recommend running more than 1 Spellbook of Tower. 1 Spellbook of Tower is amazing, just simply because it does force their resources. They have to MST it, or else you're just going to gain a lot of advantage from it. But you can recycle it extremely easily. If they destroy it, you can Fate or Priestess it out into the Banished, and then Spellbook of Eternity back into the field. And now they have to waste another MST in order to get rid of it without you plussing. And if they don't, then you're going to start plussing even more every turn because you're going to draw 2. And if they kill it again, you have more ways to recycle it than they have destruction. And it's just really powerful to be able to do that. But I would only run 1 of each in a normal build like this with no mill or anything, because you can search them out so easily and you can recycle them so easily, and you really don't want to draw Spellbook of Life in your opening hand unless you have an amazing opening hand. But it's really searchable anyway, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then of course you have your staples you should always run in spellbooks. Darkhole, Heavy Storm, Monster Born. They're just good, you should run them. And I also highly recommend running Book of Moon. Book of Moon is amazing. It combos really well with your Spellbook Magician, and it allows you not to waste your Fate, which if you're not familiar with the deck, that'll make sense the more you learn about the deck. If you can save your Fate and use Book of Moon instead, it's really useful if you're trying to get the Book of Moon effect from Fate, as well as you don't have to banish your resources out of your graveyard if your graveyard's a little short on spellbooks, so your Fate doesn't have to be dead the following turn if you have a bad hand. But this is my recommendation as far as things that you should definitely run. Period. No matter what your preferences are on the other card choices. Of course, in this template, breakers and lidlas are interchangeable. Other cards to consider: if you don't run any traps, Treacherous Trap Hole is a very good option to run. If you do run traps, the trapper lineup that I'm testing right now is the triple solemn, double Trintrel. You can run more traps if you feel the need to. You got to really play around with it. Tsukiyomi is also a recommendation to try out. It works sometimes and it doesn't work other times. It is nice to have the main deck out to the Thunder King, but again, that's preference. At the moment, I'm main decking some hand traps, but that's mainly because right now windups are still a deck, and it's a little more necessary to not get shot locked. I don't know if I'm going to main deck or side deck the hand traps until we see the ban list and kind of get a feel for what the meta is going to be. As far as the extra deck is concerned, you have to run Big Eye. You need to run Shining Angel. I run Gustav Max just because there is an occasional moment where you can burn them for 2,000 for a game that turn that you wouldn't get otherwise. You should also run Gachi Gachi, and I would also recommend running Abyss Dweller as well. I run a couple 3s just in case I need to go into 3 in some kind of desperate play. I've yet to actually have a scenario where I need to, but this deck has a lot of room in their extra deck because you don't really use it a whole lot. As far as synchros are concerned, which if you have Effect Veiler in your side or main, you need to have synchros. You definitely want to have the normal, Black Rose, Stardust, Catastor, Librarian, Scrap Dragon, Arcanite Magician, and I would also highly recommend running Crimson Blader. If you don't know, it came out in Crimson in Cosmo Blazer, and it is a level 8 synchro, and it just requires 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner. So you can use a Trag with a Effect Veiler if you copy a 7 in the graveyard, or a Priestess and Effect Veiler. It's really good against Mermails, and it's okay against the mirror match in some cases. But when it destroys a monster by battle, that player cannot special summon a level 5 or higher monster the following turn. And so if you're playing against Mermails, you can swing over like an Abyss Spike that got used, or even a Megalo or something, because he's got 2,800 attack. He's pretty big. And then they can't summon Glacia or Megalo or the new ones that I don't know the names right now. The ones that pitch 3 out of their hand or the one that pitch 1 out of their hand. They can't summon any of those the following turn, which kind of gives you a blanket of protection. It gives you a little bit of insurance. He is a warrior though, so you do lose your field presence as far as spellbooks are concerned. But it does come up against the Mermail matchup, where that's going to be really useful for you. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. This is a template for the spellbooks. I do plan on making a few more videos concerning strategies and plays that are common with spellbooks, kind of like I did with the windups. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.